So before we get into this video, if you guys want to check out my feature film Pace D, you can. It's on Amazon right now. You can also check out the Blu-ray. Check out my link tree down below for all my social medias, my short films and stuff. Always looking to collaborate with other content creators, other filmmakers. I could not think of any better way to spend my Sunday morning than to talk about Martyrs. Now, I had seen this film a little bit ago. It's been a while, and I ended up spending like $40 on the unrated DVD. So I ended up upgrading to the Umbrella Blu-ray, and one of my friends, he had never seen this film before, so we sat down and we watched it. And I like this film way more on a rewatch than I did the first time that I watched it. And I'm going to say some bold stuff about the ending of this film. I'm not going to spoil it, but I am going to talk. I will say this: if you've never seen Martyrs, it's going to be better for you to not watch this video than to watch it. But at the same time, if you want to watch Martyrs and still kind of go in blind, then you can still watch this. But if you want to go in completely blind, like not knowing anything, I am going to get into some details, just some, because Martyrs is a wild film, and it's one of those films where about 10 minutes in, we're not getting any. I'll tell you when to click away. Just keep watching. Keep watching me talk into this blue ball. But one of my friend, he was like, "Well, what's going on? Like, what is the premise of this film?" And it was about 15 minutes into the film, and I basically told him that you will know what it's about when you know what it's about, if that makes sense, because it does so many different things throughout its runtime where it's almost like a bunch of mini short films in one leading up to like this big main event. Because when it opens up, you see a flashback. Well, it opens up with a girl running. She's trying to get away. And then there's a flashback between two girls. And then there's a family dinner, which I won't spoil what goes on with that. And then there's a girl running away from something in a house. And then it just gets a little bit crazier as time goes on. I've also never seen the 2015 version. Don't really care to. So probably won't watch that version. But yeah, and again, it might be kind of hard to follow at first, but it's one of those films where you have to stick around for the whole runtime to get everything out of it. Now, the official premise of this film: two young women who were both victims of abuse as children embark on a bloody quest for revenge, only to find themselves plunged into a living hell of depravity. That is kind of a good way to look at it, but again, it's not really. This film is one of those films, it's about the destination, not the journey, because once you hit the destination, which is the ending of this film, now I'm not going to spoil anything, but if you want to, just go watch Martyrs and come back. There you go. There's your warning. But I will say the ending of Martyrs is, I think, the final line of dialogue that is said in this is the best out of any film I've ever seen. It has some of the most ambiguous dialogue I have ever heard. You can interpret it in so many different ways. It's horrifying. It can either be horrifying, it can be uplifting. You just don't know what it is. And it is one of those lightning in a bottle moments where I don't know if another film could necessarily emulate it. Like, of course, you can always end your film with a mic drop, of course. I mean, it's not that hard to do, depending on how strong your story is. But for Martyrs, the final line of dialogue was more than just a mic drop. In my opinion, I think it was a new look at not only how dialogue is delivered, but how storytelling is delivered. I think that whenever it comes to, narrative presentation in films, this film changed it, which is kind of, it's a very intense thing for me to say because not everybody in the world has seen Martyrs, but it's one of those films where I would recommend it to almost anybody. Yes, it is very depraved. It's very intense, but the thing is, it's not something like a Solo, or it's not something like Der Angel, I'm assuming, which is another film I'm going to watch and talk about, which, gosh, I dread it. But yeah, it's just a film that I think people could sit down and watch. I think you'll squirm, but I mean, if you've seen the new Terrifier films, if you've seen a lot of these new films that are coming out, in terms of gore, it's really not that bad. But when it comes to, the psychological depths of what's going on, it might mess with a few people. But again, I just think it's one of those films where I think everybody should watch it and form their own opinion. Not kids. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this to kids or anything, don't get me wrong. But yeah, no, Martyrs is just, it's a very interesting film, especially from a narrative perspective. If some of the questions, again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but these are some of the questions that this film asks, like the afterlife, what's going on in the afterlife, is it better to believe or not believe, and all that stuff. It really is. You can almost form your own opinions on what this film means. Like I watched a video on YouTube it's probably very easy to find. You can probably just type in Martyrs ending, because the ending, like I said, is nuts. But there's a video on YouTube where somebody's talking about the ending of Martyrs and what it means, and the different ways that you can interpret it. And yeah, I mean, just there's so many different ways that you can go about it. Like, when I first heard it, I thought that there was two different ways. It was either this way or that way, and that's what it meant. But then after I watched the video, it turns out that there was a bunch of different ones, and I was like, that makes it even more interesting, and that's why I wanted to rewatch it. There we go. That's me talking about Martyrs. I didn't want to say too much because I really would just recommend this to people. That's probably why I'm going to call this video "You Should Watch Martyrs," because it is very messed up and it's depraved. But I'm telling you, there are like worse movies out there that I've seen that, like, yeah, but this is one of those films you're probably going to think about it. Like, if you watch it right before bed, that's probably going to be the last thing you think about before you go to bed. But yeah, guys, let me know if you've seen Martyrs down in the comments below. If you have, let me know what you thought about it. Is the 2015 one worth the watch? I don't know. Just let me know. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time.